Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Zubair and I welcome you all to this course of managing Palo Alto firewalls using the Panorama. And in this course, we will be basically going through what Panorama is and why we should use Panorama and how to manage the firewalls using a Panorama. So to begin with, I will like to talk about the Panorama itself, what it is and what functions it gives us on the plate. Now let's start with the overview of Panorama. And Panorama is basically a centralized management system that provides global visibility and control over multiple Palo Alto Network next generation firewalls through an easy to use web-based interface. And Panorama enables basically the administrators to view aggregated and or device specific applications, users and content data, and manage multiple Palo Alto network firewalls all from a central location. So when using a Panorama, you will be able to basically see all the the views and the data collected from all the network firewalls that are being managed by that centrally centrally deployed Panorama. And that will consist of applications. You can have device specific configurations that you can look into and lots of more stuff. Now, large enterprise commonly have many firewalls deployed right throughout their organization, and the process of managing and controlling them is very cumbersome due to management complexities. And basically we have inconsistencies between individual devices and centralized management interfaces. The result is an increase in administrative efforts and associated cost. So you may not have the configuration standardized across your organization, and to manage these devices which are having different kind of configurations, Panorama can also help in that. You can have a centralized or a standard configuration as well, or if you have different type of configuration across different Palo Alto firewalls, that is also not an issue here. Now, Panorama basically provides centralized management and visibility of Palo Alto Networks next generation firewalls. So from a central location, administrators can gain insight into applications, users, and content traversing through the firewall. It can be any firewall that is being managed by the Panorama. So it can look into the basically traffic that is traversing that particular firewall, or all the firewalls, you can say. The knowledge of what is on the network in conjunction with safe application and policies. The knowledge of what is on the network in conjunction with safe application and enablement policies maximizes protection and control while minimizing administrative efforts. Administrators can centrally perform analysis, reporting, and forensic with the aggregated data over time or on data stored on the local firewall. That is also possible. Now, Panorama shares the exact same web-based look and feel as the individual hardware or virtual form factor firewalls, minimizing any learning curve or delay in executing the task at hand. So this is a very interesting fact that the Panorama looks exactly like the Palo Alto firewall. So if you are familiar with the Palo Alto firewalls, learning Panorama will be an easy task for you. Now, Palo Alto Networks adheres to a management philosophy that emphasizes consistency, providing a significant advantage over competitive offerings. This basically what this line means is that Palo Alto basically is the organization as a vendor. They are always up for latest developments to their features and with respect to the competitive offerings, obviously. So you will see them coming up with the with patches, with upgrades, with signature updates very frequently as compared to the competitive vendors that are in the market. Now, as by now you know, Panorama provides centralized policy and device management over a network of Palo Alto Networks next gen firewalls, right? This can help us view a graphical summary of the applications on the network, the respective users, and the potential security impact all across the globe. It's not just one firewall, it is the whole organization that is being, or the fleet of Palo Altos that are being managed by the Panorama. Deploy corporate policies centrally to be used in conjunction with local policies for maximum flexibility. Now you can have the Panorama deploy the policies centrally, and also the policies that are being configured locally can also be used. Delegate appropriate levels of administrative control at the device level or globally with the role-based management. So this is again a feature that is very important. For example, the RBAC, role-based access control, you can configure from the Panorama. Centrally analyze, investigate, and report on network traffic, security incidents, and administrative modifications. So as I said, I mean, you can basically monitor everything centrally from the Panorama device, and then based on the facts and findings, you can basically do a task or create modifications, or you can do modifications on the policies or any security profile, whatever you think is feasible to mitigate that threat. Now, Panorama basically enables you to effectively configure, manage, and monitor your Palo Alto Networks firewalls with central oversight. The three main areas in which Panorama adds value are: first is the centralized configuration and deployment. To simplify central management and rapid development of the firewalls and wildfire appliances on your network, use Panorama to pre-stage the firewalls and wildfire appliances for deployment. You can then assemble the firewalls into groups and create templates to apply a base network and device configuration, and use device groups to administer globally shared and local policy rules. Now we will talk about the device groups and the templates, but for now, just remember that the central management is done through using something called as device groups and templates. Now you can have aggregated logging and with central oversight of analysis and reporting, collect information on activity across all the management firewalls on the network, and centrally analyze, investigate, and report on the data. This comprehensive view of network traffic, user activity, and the associated risk empowers you to respond to potential threat using the rich set of policies to securely enable applications on your network. Now this is going to be quite similar, like you have in the Palo Alto firewalls, you have the network tab, or you have the ACC, action and command center. So you can go there and basically have a central oversight for analysis and reporting. Distributed administrations enables you to delegate or restrict access to global and local firewall configurations and policies. So you can have RBAC, right? The role-based access control. Now, if I talk about the whole thing that I spoke till now and try to explain it using a diagram or an animation. So for example, you have two data centers wherein you have Palo Alto Firewall 1, Firewall 2, that they can be basically in cluster or in HA mode. Now these are different data centers, for example. Now, as of now, what you were doing, you were basically HTTPSing on those using SSL. You were browsing to the web GUI and then configuring the changes on the firewall, right? You were doing policies, but the thing is, if you want to do some changes in PAF1, you have to go to that GUI and then do the changes, and then if you have to go to do some changes in PAF2, FW2, you have to go to the GUI in PAFW2 and do the changes there. So I mean, it was a heavy task when it comes to multiple firewalls. I'm showing you only 2 firewalls here, but you may have hundreds of firewalls in your organization. Now there is something called the Panorama, which we are talking about right now. Using a Panorama, you can basically deploy this, first of all, this Panorama either in a hardware appliance, which is going to be an MCDs appliance, or you can have this as a virtual machine appliances. So Panorama comes in both forms. You have the hardware appliance as well as the virtual appliance, which you can basically deploy on the ESXi's. So now when you have a Panorama, now those administrators can basically log into the Panorama and then basically configure the managed firewalls using, again, HTTPS and SSL. So now this communication between the Palo Alto and the Panorama is going to be over TCP port 3679. 3679, yeah. So that is something you need to remember. Maybe in interviews you might find this very useful, right? So now the same users can basically log into your Panorama, and now then from there you can push the policies to the different firewalls over the globe. Yeah, or you can push policies at the same time to all the firewalls depending on the device group and templates. We will talk about that in the few slides from now. Now let's talk about the key features that the Panorama provides us. First of all, as I said, it's the ACC, which is the Application and Command Center, provides a visual summary of application, web, threat, and data transfer activities displayed in a straightforward, easy to understand manner. Administrators can quickly learn more about the network activity by adding and removing filters in ACC with a click of the mouse. This ACC is quite similar as you saw the ACC in the Palo Alto firewalls. And the second is the app scope, provides a comparative view of application activities present versus a past time frame across either multiple devices or a single device to help administrators pinpoint problematic network behavior. So this is very flexible. You can basically have a granular filtering based on number of firewalls or a single firewall or all of it, and you can get the data from the app scope. Now you can also have policy-based application usage control using a policy editor with a familiar look and feel. Administrators can deploy, develop, and manage application usage control policies using a wide range of criteria such as user and groups, applications, application category, application behavior, or underlying technology. So the creation of policies is going to be quite similar, almost, and it's not quite similar, it's similar to what you have in the Palo Alto firewall. So creating policies is not much of a difference. Now, next comes the shared policies. You can also have shared policies across the globe. Deploy a set of global policies across a set of distributed firewalls. Local device administrators will be able to see these rules, but only a Panorama administrator can modify or remove them. So for example, you have a logging or you can say an implicit deny rule with a log enabled. So you want to have this all over the globe, right? So you can configure this as a shared policy and push it to all the firewalls across the globe. Now you can also have centralized update management. Customers can use Panorama to manage license and perform device or content updates. For example, you can have updates for virus patterns, threats, threat signatures, app IDs, etc., etc. Now you can also have the application browser. Allows administrators to quickly research an application, its behavioral characteristics and underlying technology, and then immediately translate the result into a security policy. That can be also done centrally from the Panorama. Now, if I talk about logging, this is a very important perspective of deploying a Panorama. The detailed logs are collected locally, leveraging device storage and eliminating the requirement for centralized logging. Logs can be dynamically filtered on individual fields as well as through regular expressions. And also reporting. More than 30 predefined reports can be used as is or modified and saved for future use. Reports can be exported to PDF and scheduled for email delivery. So this is very important for auditing and reporting, right? Now, if I talk about the architecture now, Panorama management architecture, basically Panorama enables organizations to manage their Palo Alto firewalls using a model that provides both central oversight and local control. Panorama provides several tools for centralized administrations. First is the templates. So Panorama manages common devices and network configuration through templates. So you have seen in the firewall, you have the network configurations and the device configuration. That is basically managed inside Panorama using something called as templates. And when you create a template, you can define these two tabs and all the features present in these two tabs. Templates can be used to manage configuration centrally and then push the changes to all managed firewalls. This approach avoids making the same individual firewall changes repeatedly across many devices. For example, you have the DNS and NTP that you want to configure same over a group of firewalls which are basically inside a template, and then rather performing this change or by going device by device, you can just configure this in a template and then push all that changes to the group of firewalls. Now, device group. Panorama manages common policies and objects through device groups. So you have seen some tabs in Palo Alto Firewall, which are called the object tab and the policy tab. So those changes are pushed from the Panorama using device groups. Device groups are used to centrally manage the rule base of many devices with common requirements. For example, you have say a firewall in a geographic region which is Europe and North America, or functionally you can also group the devices like the perimeter or data center. So you can group multiple devices based on the type of devices you have. You can have office firewalls, you can have data center firewalls, you can have IDS, IPS, groups of firewalls oriented, right? Within device groups, virtual systems are also treated as individual devices at the same level as physical firewalls. So you can, if you are using VCs, so those VCs can be also considered as separate firewalls inside the device group. This basically allows common rule-based sharing across different virtual systems on a device. Now, if you see this, all the things that we spoke about. So this is just a kind of summary of those things, but you need to know this. So you can use shared policies, as you know, for central control while still providing your local firewalls administrators with the autonomy to make specific adjustment for local requirements. It is not that the local users or administrators or you cannot go to the local firewall and do some changes. It is quite possible. You can create a new rule over there. But the thing is, at the device group level, you can create shared policies that are defined as the first set of rules. So shared policies, if you define, they will go in the pre-rules. That means on the local device, the pre-rules will be checked first, and the last set of rules, which are the post rules, to be evaluated against match criteria. Pre and post rules can be viewed on a managed firewall, but can only be edited from the Panorama within the context of the administrative rules that have been defined. So you will see basically pre and post rules which are being pushed from the Panorama, and the rules that are in between are the local rules. So local device rules, those between pre and post rules, can be edited by either your local and firewall administrator or by a Panorama administrator who can switch to a local firewall context. In addition, an organization can use shared devices, shared objects defined by Panorama administrator, which can be referenced by locally managed device rules. So what this is saying is your local firewall can have local rules which can be either managed or edited or defined by a local administrator or even by the Panorama administrator. And you can see that from the Panorama, you can switch to the local device with just a click of button. You don't need to go and HTTPS to that IP address of domain name or of that local firewall. So you will have something called the pre and the post rules, and in between what rules are there, those are the local rules which can be edited by the local administrator. Now, then you have the role-based administration. Organizations can use role-based administration to delegate feature-level administrative access, enable read only or disable and hidden from view. For example, you can have basically role-based access on the firewalls and also on the Panorama. So from the Panorama, you can define a user which can have a limited access on the local firewalls. So the management of administration and all administrators, creation of administrators and all this becomes also easy from the centralized point of access, right? The Panorama. Now, all changes made by an administrator are basically logged, showing the time of occurrence, the administrator name, the management interface used, which can be either Web GUI, CLI, or itself Panorama, the command or action taken by the user, that is also being logged. Now, software content and license update management, as you saw, the management can be also done centrally as a deployment. As your deployment grows in size, many organizations basically want to make sure that the updates are sent to downstream boxes. And and in an organized manner. For instance, security teams may prefer to centrally qualify a software update before it's delivered via Panorama to all production firewalls at once. Using Panorama, the update process can be centrally managed for software updates, content application updates, or antivirus signatures, or threat signatures, URL filtering, database, etc., and even the license. So you can, from a central point of view, from the Panorama, see all the signatures versions that are being installed on different firewalls, and you can match that. Okay, so these firewalls are having this version and these firewalls are having a low version, so we need to go and update these firewalls to have a standard a level of updates on our Panorama fleet, or sorry, Palo Alto fleet. Now you have the deployment flexibility here. As you saw, we can deploy this in hardware as well as software. Now organizations can basically deploy Panorama either as a hardware appliance or a virtual appliance. Now let's talk about the hardware appliance. Organizations which prefer to deploy Panorama on high performance dedicated hardwares, or would like to separate the Panorama management and logging functions for a large volume of data, can use the M100 hardware appliances to meet these needs. So Panorama running on the M100 can be deployed in the following ways. Now, so you have the M series, which can be deployed as an appliance, and you can have the following ways of deploying the Panorama as in hardware based. You have the centralized, which in this scenario, all Panorama management and logging functions are consolidated into a single device with the option for high availability. So when you have the centralized development, that means you're managing firewalls and also collecting the logs will be done by this single device. Now then you have the distributed one. An organization may prefer to separate the management and logging functions across multiple devices. Under this configuration, the functions are split between managers and log collector. Now you have a Panorama manager and you have a log collector. So you have two devices. You have one M100 series. One is basically managing the fleet of Palo Altos, and the other one is basically collecting logs from all the devices across the globe or across the organization. Now, the Panorama manager is responsible for handling the tasks associated with policies and device configuration across all management devices. The manager does not store log data locally, but would rather use separate log collectors for handling log data. The manager analyzes the data stored in the log collector for centralized reporting. Now, the reporting will be done on the manager, but it will fetch the data from the log collector. Now, talking about the Panorama log collector, organizations with high logging volume and retention requirements can deploy dedicated Panorama log collectors, devices that will aggregate log information from multiple managed firewalls. Basically, the separation of management and log collection enables organizations to optimize their deployment in order to meet scalability, organizational, or geographical requirements. Now, this was the hardware. Let's talk about the virtual appliance. Now, virtual appliance can also be deployed, which can be deployed using the VMware ESXi, allowing the organizations to support their virtualization initiatives and consolidate the rack space, which is sometimes limited or costly in a data center. The virtual appliance can be deployed in two ways again, which is the centralized and the distributed. Again, the centralized means all the Panorama management and logging are consolidated into a single virtual appliance with the option of HA. But distributed, again, you can have one virtual firewall handling the device configurations and policies management and other configuration stuff. But you can also have the log collector as a hardware device, which can be again an M series, M100, say, collecting logs, and your VM, which is the manager, can go and fetch the logs from the log collector and then show you, then analyze that data to show you monitoring or reporting, right? So that is the distributed one. So you can have the manager in a virtualized manner, but you can have your log collector as a hardware device. Providing the choice of either a hardware or virtualized platform, as well as the choice to combine or separate the Panorama functions, provides organization with the maximum flexibility basically for managing multiple Palo Alto firewall network firewalls in a distributed network environment. Now, if you talk about the technical specifications of Panorama, I have a small chat here. This table basically can tell you the maximum number of devices supported by a Panorama to basically manage. It basically starts with 25 and goes up to 1,000. Then you have administrator authentications, which can be done local database, and you can also have some radius authentication integrated with your Panorama. And high availability is basically same as the Palo Altos. You can have active and active passive. Log storage, if you are using the log collector mode, then you can have a maximum of 2 terabytes. Now the access, you can do it through command line interface using SSH version 2, telnet or console. I don't think you will be using telnet, obviously, for obvious reasons. So yeah, SSH version 2 is supported, and telnet or console is also supported. Web interfaces is there, which will be used using HTTPS or HTTP. Device connection can be SSL v2, which I mean spoke about, using TCP 3679. Now management tool and APIs that it uses is graphical user interface, CLI, and XML based API. So you have the APIs as well here, like the Palo Alto firewalls. Now about the virtual appliances, minimum server hardware requirements is 40 GB of RAM, 40 GB of hard drive, and 4 GB of RAM, and you should have a quad core CPU, which means 4 threads minimum. 8 threads. Quad core means 4 cores and 8 threads. Now VMware supports that it is having is minimum of ESXi version 4.1 or greater than that. Now browser support is Internet Explorer version 7 or greater, Firefox, Safari, and Chrome versions like this. Log storage, you can have VMware virtual disk 2 terabytes maximum, or you can have a network file storage. Now just to summarize this, centralized management of the Palo Alto, globally managing multiple Palo Alto Networks next generation firewalls with Panorama, or controlling a single device via the on-box capabilities, is accomplished through a common web interface, eliminating the need to install a desktop client while minimizing the learning curve for both interfaces. The result is that administrators can move basically from one management interface to another painlessly, allowing them to immediately take advantage of the provided multiple device capabilities. Now, if you talk about the difference between the Panorama management and the device management, so multiple device management is only possible through the Panorama centralized management, while on the device you have to move from one device to another device, which is very painful and cumbersome. Global view of all device is not possible on the device web interface, which is possible through the Panorama centralized management. Global logging is also not possible through the device web interface, which is possible through the Panorama centralized management. ACC is possible on the device web interface, but that would be only for that particular device itself. But from the Panorama, it will be for all the devices across the organization. App scope also possible on both, but again the same similarities, that will be individual firewall, this will be from all the firewalls. Policy editor and web based interface, both are basically possible on both devices, but with the same restrictions, that device web interface will have the data for that single firewall, and Panorama will have for all the firewalls. Now shared policies are only possible with Panorama, because Panorama will be sharing these policies with multiple firewalls. And then you have the RBAC, which is basically possible with both, but in Panorama you can have RBAC on all the devices across the organization, or across the devices managed by your Panorama. Now requires management client, both of them don't require management client because you are using it through HTTPS. Now just to summarize, and just the last topic that I have here for this Panorama is the license, the Panorama license, right? So these licenses basically come as a number of devices that a Panorama can manage, starts with 25 and goes to 100 and then 1000 and more, right? Then it can increment on 1000. Now these the cost basically would differ from from these types of management device levels. But then again, if you go for the premium support, also that can increase the cost that you have to pay for the license. Yeah, so I hope this was informative, and I will basically see you in the next video. Thank you.
That was it for this video. See you in the next video. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel.